I can keep talking, but I'd rather answer questions.
We're good till half.
Sorry, he makes me work all day, every day. I'm making.
Right, now she's putting me to work. That's right, Jerry.
I'll stick around.
Well, I'll talk a little bit from the broader kind of system perspective around why technology is important for older adults. When we started out in 2004, just about a quarter of senior citizens were using the internet. And back then, that was a pretty stark number, which meant, everybody that I knew in my age group was online and emailing and using the internet for, shopping and getting health information and connecting with their families. But 75% of the people over the age of 60 were not doing this at all. And today, now 10 years later, we've taught 15,000 free classes, and we've gotten, I don't know how many thousand people online, maybe 10 or 15,000 or more. But the numbers today are that 53% of people over the age of 65 are on the internet, which means just over half. So last year was the first time that half of the senior citizens in America were on the internet.
At least once.
Which is a good step. It's getting
yeah,
right.
They
say, do you use the internet, not do you have internet at home? But when you look at the numbers, it's still the case that the people that are least using the internet or least using technology are still primarily older adults and people, the other group is people that have very low literacy rates. And that's a real challenge because what we're doing as a society is we're creating a kind of a two-tiered society. It's kind of one of those situations where when you look at it and you say, half of the people of a certain demographic can't do what everybody else is normally doing, you start asking if there's like a civil rights perspective here to some degree. Which is kind of what got me interested in it. I was a housing organizer. I didn't do anything with seniors until I started this. But I was interested in social justice, and it started to become clear that technology was not just like buying orange juice. It's like, okay, so one person likes orange juice and I like cranberry juice. Okay, we can agree that not everybody has to do that. But if half of the people in a demographic are not using what it might be seen as a consumer service, but it's the link to health information, it's the link to government services, it's the link to social networks, it's the link to news, it's the ability to be able to express yourself in social and communication environments where your voice can be heard. And so we really thought of it as a public issue, not just something that was kind of a private problem. So we started teaching classes, first in Bedford-Stuyvesant, at a housing development over on Gates Avenue. So anybody here from Brooklyn? Upper West Side. Oh, you got one over here. All right, good. Two. So we started out. I live in Brooklyn, so I'm a big Brooklyn fan. I used to live on the Upper West Side. And so we started teaching in Bedford-Stuyvesant and working with seniors. What we found was the reason people don't go online isn't that they're not interested. It's that the training that we create is not relevant to their interests. So if I take a technology course that's for just kind of generic, and I give it to a 70-year-old person to take the class, it turns out it's a challenge because they didn't grow up playing video games, and older people don't have the basic experience with a mouse or a keyboard, and it becomes very frustrating. So we rewrote the curriculum and just literally sat down with senior citizens and said, what do you want to learn? Like, what's important to you? What are you trying to get? And they said, I want to do email and internet. And so we said, okay, let's just do that. And so we took a 10-week course just teaching email and internet. And that really worked because it didn't go too fast. It was fairly direct, and people really learned just what they wanted. And then after that, people got more advanced. They started taking e-commerce and all this stuff with Facebook and digital photography and health information online. But you have to get people started from the perspective of where they are. And then over the last 10 years, we started teaching a lot of classes and getting good at it. And then we started asking, how do we create it might be ambitious to say a social movement around this, but let's say we want to create at least a citywide ecosystem, right? Let's go past the 15 or 20 community centers where we're working, and how can we reach the whole city? And so the Federal Stimulus Act was passed in 2010 for the financial crisis, and part of that package had money for broadband and technology training. So we asked the city if they would be our partner on this. They included us in the application, and we were able to build a city, a sort of a flagship location on 25th Street called the Senior Planet Exploration Center, which is the country's only technology-themed community center for older adults. And it's, has anybody here been there? A few? Oh, wow, a lot of people. Okay, that's good. So the Senior Planet Center is, we really wanted to move away from this idea that we should all learn technology in the basement of a church with, like little computer desks, and then go back to what we were doing. We wanted to create something that would be really spectacular. So it's a storefront, it's a big storefront, it's got high ceilings, it has teak wood paneling, but it's also really open, and it's very airy and friendly and inviting. And there is a technology training space in the back where Jerry has spent many happy hours with his older adult participants. But there's also free access computers on one side, and there's a couch and a chair for people to sit in a living room area, and there's a big farm table at the front where people bring a laptop or an iPad. And it just feels like a place where people can come together and not just learn to use technology, but really start to ask ourselves, what are we doing with this stuff? I don't really care how many people use Windows or how many people can click a mouse. What I care about is as we get older in America, we really have to confront a lot of the ageist attitudes and a lot of the negativity and stereotypes that we've let take over how we manage aging. And, if you go to nursing homes or you go to some of the service programs that we fund, we're just not asking enough of ourselves in terms of what's possible. What I hear when I talk to older adults is they feel like their potential is somehow not quite realized. Like what we really want to do is go out and change the world. We want to change our own lives. We want to manage our health care. We want to be more active. We want to be more engaged. We want to live in our homes longer. We want to share our experience with younger people and with neighbors. We want to be more influential around us. And what we're finding is technology is a channel for that. It's an opening up of opportunities for people. And so the center is a place for that, and people really spend time there. We then were able to build 24 additional computer labs around the city. Partly what we found is that you go to these local neighborhood sites, they're not secure networks, they're not secure computers. And so we rebuilt them to be safer and more secure and more reliable. And then people are saying, okay, great, now I'm going on the internet, what do I do? Did you talk about seniorplanet.org yet? Aha.
We got a little introduction. I didn't mention a million people.
When you go on the internet, there are not a lot of websites that are designed for older adults. There's the AARP website, which has its strengths and weaknesses. I love AARP. They support us. We work with them very closely on projects. But their website is designed to be, it's an institutional website around a membership organization, and that's their purpose. There's a website called thirdage.com, which is really for seniors. That's a little bit around kind of the boomer lifestyle, but it's also kind of commercial and for-profit. And there's a few others out there, but there weren't any that we felt really captured that kind of cool, unique, effervescent attitude that I see with so many older adults. And if you work, many of you are obviously older adults or seniors, but you also know each other, you know your neighbors. When I work with seniors, there's a kind of to me, there's a cool factor to it. My friends say, why, you work with seniors, what's it like? And I say, it's where all the action is. It's true. Like every time I talk to somebody over the age of 60, they've got something funky or cool or unusual to tell me. And so we felt like if you go on the internet, you should see that reflected at you. So the slogan we came up with after talking to people was, aging with attitude. And we just wanted people to have a little bit of attitude there. And so we created the website, seniorplanet.org, to have content online that would be more along that line. It would be more provocative, a little bit more daring. We get complaints from people at some of our sites that there are too many nude paintings of seniors on the website, and we're like, that's great. We have seniors online talking, critical of.
Where are they? I'll get right to it.
The Met gets that too.
But we really push the envelope a little bit to talk about things like, for example, this is just yesterday's example. Have you heard of Airbnb?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a somewhat controversial service that allows you to rent out a room or an apartment to travelers. It's a peer-to-peer sort of a room rental option. So for people, if you don't want a bed and breakfast, but you just want one room, you can do it online. New York has created a restriction on that, so you can only rent a room in your apartment. But a lot of other cities will just let you rent out your apartment, and you can find people through Airbnb. They came to our office yesterday to see if we would want to train older adults to use it. And we kind of like that because it gets people using technology as long as they follow the rules. But we also found that on Senior Planet we'd already written an article, which I didn't know, about Airbnb, talking about how seniors are renting out their apartments and how to do it and what that means. And those are the kinds of topics that you're not going to find online if you go to, the city's Department for the Aging website, because that's not their job. So we really try to create content where people can find something unexpected, unusual, special, different. And last December we posted an article about a documentary that was done called The Fabulous Fashionistas. Has anybody heard of that documentary? It's amazing. It was done by a woman named Sue Bourne. She's a documentary filmmaker, and her first film that I saw was about her mom who has Alzheimer's. And it's called, I'm going to blank on the name of that film, I've seen it, I love it. Anyways, it's about her mom with Alzheimer's, and it's a celebration of her time with her mom. And she travels with a camera, and they're just laughing and joking and playing throughout the whole film as her mom is having dementia, but the family is really thriving with her. And it's a documentary about just what's possible there. She then decided she wanted to do a documentary on women in their 70s and 80s who were fashionable and who had a special sense of style. And she said her biggest problem was that she's British, and most British people don't have a sense of style at all. She was like, I'm already starting it. She tried to come to New York to do it, but she couldn't figure it out. So she went back to London, and she found 6 women who are incredibly, amazingly stylish and confident and thriving, and they're just awesome. They're like brilliant, and they're hardworking, and they're sexy, and they're creative, and they're full of color and pride and confidence. And we were able to write an article about that movie when it was posted on the internet for a while, and people linked to it. The article went viral, and nobody had seen that movie. It was seen only on TV in London, but it hadn't been popular in the U.S. The article began getting passed around because of seniorplanet.org, and over 350,000 people viewed it online in like one day. And the website went to 1 million visitors that came to Senior Planet because they were so excited about it. And then we had Sue come with one of her subjects from the film to New York and do a screening at Senior Planet to talk to people about it. And all these women came dressed up in these incredibly awesome outfits that I'm still thinking about how they looked. It was just a lot of fun. And what I think is happening here is the technology is becoming a place where we're starting to recraft how we think about aging. And it's not because of us, it's because it's already happening, but it's a place where people are coming to share that. And it is, the Senior Planet Center and the places that we teach and the content online are becoming a kind of a crossroads for older adults that are looking to celebrate aging, they're looking to live in a different way, to not necessarily accept stereotypes or biased approaches to what we think here, and not really accept limitations beyond those that are actually necessary. I mean, not everybody, people do have physical ailments and restrictions, and people do have fixed incomes, and we do get older and need increasing levels of dependency. But that doesn't mean that we can't contribute, and it doesn't mean that we should get more dependent than we need to be, or that our voices shouldn't be heard. And so Senior Planet and the technology programs we've done have really been an opportunity to kind of open up those possibilities. And the organization is 10 years old this year. The center just turned 1 year old. We were working so hard that we missed the birthday. So we were sitting in the office the other day, and Kim said, "Oh, we've been a year. We were open a year last week." So we're still in our kind of formative stages to do this. We've been able to teach these 15,000 classes. We do now have support from a lot of the government and corporate and philanthropic sources, and we look like we're going to be okay in terms of growing, but we can reach so many more people if we can get more support. So we're really trying to figure the sustainability and the growth pieces out. But we're just kind of learning from people about what the next steps are going to be. So I would encourage you, first of all, to ask a lot of questions and comments, but also find your time to come down. It's on the center is on 25th Street between 6th and 7th, and we also teach all over the city. So if you don't want to come down there, you're looking for a class in your neighborhood, we can find out where a site would be where you can sign up for a local class as well. All of our classes are free. They're all designed specifically for older adults. And I will also turn around and thank Kim because she has been so unbelievably central to our success this year and has been doing the work of 3 or 4 different people for the last 12 months. So she's the one who deserves this. There. All right, so ask us, do we have time for questions?
Yeah. Definitely. Take your time.
So ask some questions. You're in the middle there.
Yeah, at the center, do you teach only Windows or you teach Mac as well?
We teach on the PC, we only teach Windows, we teach iPads on the tablet. And this is one of the, there's a kind of a theoretical point here. We do have some Macs that we're going, eventually if we find some space and time to teach on, but what happens is that on the PC, a lot of people that have a laptop or a desktop at home are going to get one. Often, the most common platform for people is still the Windows environment. And I use Windows, although I will say I hate it. I think it's terrible. It's like a disaster from a design point of view. But it's still the most common platform for people. And because so many older adults, when they learn the computer, their support mechanism is their neighbor or their friend or their family member, we try to teach the thing that they're most likely to get supported from. Also, Apple does provide pretty good training and support at the Apple stores. And so a lot of people are going there already and getting help. And then thirdly, a lot of our people are lower income, and the Apple computers are more expensive. On the tablet side, the iPad is so dominant that we've started with that as our first tablet, and then we're going to start teaching other kinds of tablets as well.
Do you have any classes in smartphones or
how do we answer that? We have the
yes and no. If you have an iPhone, the Apple iPad class will help you. There are so many kinds of smartphones, it's impossible to teach one smartphone class. We do a lot of talking about smartphones and pros and cons and different kinds, and we have drop-in, we have an army of committed volunteers. One of them is here today, but committed volunteers and students, a student corps that's there to help if you have a specific question. So not really one-on-one tutoring, but if you want to figure out how to get your email hooked up on your brand new smartphone, we can certainly help with those things.
And we have, the classes really try to focus on large kind of group topics. So for specific devices